You've been Queen for 70 years, you met every significant, substantial figure in post-war history, including some real sort of 24-carat monsters. And you've got a charming Donald Trump who just wants to talk about Scotland and his Scottish mother. I mean, what's not to like?
Can we move on to speaking about somebody else with a predilection for pretty ladies and golf? Prince Andrew. This Tony Johnson-Burt anecdote. Tony Johnson-Burt. Hannah, explain who this very upstanding courtier is, because this is an account by Robert Hardman about basically fisticuffs behind palace gates. But to explain, we need you to tell us who Tony is.
With a gentleman very unlikely to have fisticuffs, I imagine. I've never heard him getting into a fight with anybody. He's incredibly smooth. He's the kind of person who comes to the palace, and when you visit the palace, he hosts you.
Yeah.
He's very charming.
He was head of the household. Or is he still head of the household?
He still is. He's I think the second longest serving master of the household in history, and that's a position that goes back to medieval times.
He has survived longer than Andrew in these circumstances.
Sorry, who punched who?
Prince Andrew hit him. He didn't. It was one-way traffic. I mean, Sir Anthony, as he is now, was merely doing his job, and Prince Andrew had demanded a room at the palace to host one of his pitch at the palace events, and the master had explained. I imagine Prince Andrew had sort of shouted at a lot of other people before then, and had worked his way up to the man at the top, the master, and said, "Look, I need a room for my event." And the Admiral said, "Well, we'll just have to wait like everyone else. We'll get you a room when we can, but at the moment they're all booked for whatever reason."
Love the Admiral for that.
And Prince Andrew got very, very cross, and it ended up with him. We're not quite sure whether it was which part of the Admiral he hit, but anyway, it was described to me as a kinetic blow, and everyone was just shocked that this had happened. And the master, the Admiral, was utterly correct. He'd followed all the due process, which is, in that situation, reported it to his superior, who was the Lord Chamberlain, who took it up with the Prince of Wales, and who took it up with the Duke of York, who then complained to the Lord Chamberlain that he was causing trouble. And the Lord Chamberlain went round to see him and said, "You do not treat any member of staff, whoever they are, like that." And everyone was just appalled by this. And Prince Philip, who by this point had retired from public life, was so cross that he actually wrote a letter of apology to the master. And everyone was obviously, as ever, not wanting to upset the Queen, but she heard about it and she wasn't that surprised. And I think we can all divine her response by the fact that fairly soon afterwards the master was knighted, and the Prince Andrew did not get his room.
Hannah, you're going to get into.
He's prepared to take on some policies. He's not party political, but he's prepared to talk about defence. He's prepared to talk about the environment. And these things, I think, matter. And I don't think he would have been surprised that the President talked about their reference to Iran. I just think that's a shift. And the second shift is just that he's very funny. And people like that. And that, I think, is a huge part of the armoury of soft power. But it's a change. It's a change in style.
And I suppose, though, how do you link what happens with a royal state visit and then the politics? How do those behind the scenes, how does that get thought about? How does it work together?
Well, of course, it's seamless. This visit would have been arranged hand in glove with the government. The Foreign Secretary is there. Every jot and every dot of this would have been planned very carefully with the government. And of course, when the King said yesterday, "My government and my Prime Minister," in his speech to Congress, what he was saying is exactly that. So the hope would be that this mood music would then trickle down to the relationship the President has with the Prime Minister. But we should also remember these are two heads of state. And these are heads of state coming together where the relationship is always going to be at a friendly level by definition. So the politics is different. But I genuinely think this has steadied the ship. He's prepared to take on.
In his speech yesterday, the King took his opportunity in Congress to talk at much length on the importance of the role of the United States of America at the firmament of maintaining freedom and defending against those who would seek to overcome it. And it was perhaps one of the most robust speeches that a sovereign has given since King George V, who was the great-grandfather, as it were, of the modern constitutional monarchy. Certainly, Edward VII was quite outspoken and played his part in trying to establish the Entente Cordiale in 1904, which was so important to the United Kingdom in both its fighting of World War I and World War II. We're looking out now onto Liberty Street in the distance there, and advice being given in order to keep to time by Colonel Jonny Thompson, the King's permanent equerry.